and we went out to dinner for the first time in a year.
Wow. 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 I
Crazy.
saw that. Yeah, I saw that. But now you got the vaccine. We're hopefully going to be. My husband will be 59 in May, and then I'll follow him in June. So, 55 and older should be around the corner. They're saying in a week or two. All right, here we
Oh,
go.
that's great. Because we just opened, Pima County just opened to 55 and older.
Pima County, that's in Tucson, Arizona. So, hi
Yeah,
everyone. We're live.
exactly.
So I'm so excited to be live today with my friend Gayle Petrillo from Tucson. And Gayle, before we start, this is a special day for my family because yesterday was my mom's birthday, who in heaven, but today my 26-year-old is 26. So Rudy Barker lives in Tucson, and he is runs the Earth's Best Healing dispensary in Tucson, which I think is like number one. So he's amazing. Pretty sure he's a general manager, and he's been doing a great job. Very proud of Rudy, living his dream and his life, and just awesome. So happy birthday, Rudy. We love you.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. I would say he's my youngest boy, because Alana's my youngest daughter, who turns 15 at the end of this month. And raising a teen girl is definitely much harder than raising boys. I'll just put it out there.
And she needs my book.
I know, I will. So let's talk about your book. So just so everyone knows, Gayle and I met. And I love this story, Gayle, because I remember the exact day, the weather, the mountain behind us, the restaurant, the supermarket, restaurant. But Gayle and I met. Somehow someone said, you should meet Gayle. And someone said the same thing, Gayle, you should meet Adrian. You're both in the same line of business, teaching etiquette. So I said, you know what? Yes, let's meet. So Gayle and I met, and Gayle has First Impressions.
Yes, First Impressions, beautiful. Image consulting and career coaching.
I love that. And one of the things I cannot do is ever consult anyone on like image and clothing. And Gayle always looks so fantastic. And I said to Gayle, my God, we're like a team, because Gayle has all the same skills I have of, corporate etiquette and protocol and understanding that. But then you get to team up with the image consulting, which is amazing. And I supported Gayle. We did a couple of things together. And I remember you speaking at the Rotary, which was lovely. And then I moved. So I moved from Tucson to go teach business English in China. And I had all my books. And I said, I need someone to take my books. And I didn't want to just put them in the Goodwill. So I was so appreciative that Gayle has the books. I know they're all in good hands. And then talking about books. So Gayle, besides being an author, actually is married to an author, which is interesting. So what is it like when you decided to take your story, not only put it in a book, but you're telling your husband, okay, I'm ready. What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So the interesting thing to me is I never set out to write a book. It was the farthest thing in my mind. My husband's the author. He's a journalist, freelance journalist. He's written 3 novels. He's the writer in the family, English background, the whole 9 yards. When I launched First Impressions about 4 years ago, I did it with a fundraising fashion show. And there was a beneficiary, Beads of Courage. And year 2, the founder of Beads of Courage and I were behind stage just chit-chatting as that entertainment was getting off to a start. And I said, so Jean, where have you been? Because her organization is international. And I was like, so where have you been? The prior year, she was talking about being in China and this and that. And she said, I haven't been very far. I've been in Phoenix, actually working with the burn kids at the Phoenix Children's Hospital. And as I finished my sentence, our MC introduced me. And I said, gotta go. So we didn't finish that conversation. And Adrian, you know me, I get up in front of people, regardless of what it is, I have a full script. It's not that I read it. That's like my blankie, right? I just have to have it there. And so I get up on stage behind the podium and I spoke from my heart. And it was not scripted. And I just said, I was just speaking to Jean, who I'm so excited to bring out in a minute. But she was telling me about supporting the burn kids and their families at the Children's Phoenix Hospital this past week. And I wish my parents and I had had that kind of support when I was burned as a 2.5-year-old. There were 200 people in the audience, and you could hear the collective gasp and then dead silence for like a minute. That's a long time. And then I went on with my speech. 200 people in the room. I probably knew 180 of them. And as I came off the stage at the end of the event, I was greeting people. And one gal in particular came up to me who I knew by reputation but had never met. And Kathy said to me, "We have to go to lunch. We have a lot to talk about." Well, unbeknownst to me at the time, her daughter had grown up with a blood cancer and survived off of transfusions her whole life until she had a bone marrow transplant. And they wrote a book. And Kathy said to me over a lunch, which turned out to be about a 3-hour lunch, and I felt bad for the waiter. He kept coming over, and the two of us were just crying our eyes out. But we bonded. And she said to me, "You have to write your book." And I'm like, "No, don't think so. Not going to share." Like, I've never, until that moment on stage, I had never said those words out loud. Never. So people that have known me a very long time, not only in the audience were surprised, but now with my book out, I'm getting calls and emails every day saying, "I never knew. Why did you never tell us?" Blah, blah, blah. So I wrote the book because Kathy insisted, if you will, that I did it. And it was very cathartic. And I said to my husband, the writer, "How do I do this?" And he said, "Just sit at the computer and type. Whatever comes to your mind, get it through your fingers and get it, quote, on paper, right, on the computer." And I did that. In January of 2020, my sister and I went to visit my mom before the pandemic hit. And I had given her a heads up and said, "Somebody's asked me to tell my story. What do you think about it?" And she said, "Well, let's talk about it when you and your sister are here." And it was the first time our family ever spoke about the accident, ever. And so over the course of 10 years, my mom filled in some pieces that she thought I should know. I filled her in on things that I didn't know she probably didn't know. And the book was born. My sister is a ghostwriter, and she's very able to put my words as a 67-year-old into the words of a 3-year-old. And so while she didn't totally ghostwrite the book, it is my story with some of my sister's words. And I'm very grateful to the people that took good care of me. I was not supposed to survive, and I survived. I was in the hospital for months. A little known secret is my sister was born because my parents were told I wouldn't survive, and they decided one afternoon to go home and make a baby because their baby wasn't going to survive. So as a burn victim, obviously, there are a lot of traumas, right? I have scars. I'll always have physical scars, but there are emotional scars as well. And so we all have scars of some kind, right? Physical, emotional. I grew up in a very supportive home. But even saying that, just being a normal teenager is difficult. You know that, Adrienne, with your daughter, right? But imagine adding layers of it as someone with some sort of scar, particularly a physical scar. And then you can talk about, fortunately for me, the scarring didn't affect my upper body or my arms. So it's pretty well covered. Other people have not been that fortunate. So what happened, I will tell you the secret. So what happened was, as a 2.5-year-old, we were invited with my mom. I was invited with my mom to go to a grown-up tea party. And we went to these friends of my parents' home, and there were several adult girls, women with their children. And I tried to climb up on the table, which was basically a picnic table. Their kitchen table was like a picnic table with a bench and then chairs on the other side. And I was tiny, always been tiny. I'm only 4'10". I put my hands on the table to boost myself up and pulled a percolator full of freshly brewed coffee off the table and all over me. And so that's how I got my scars. So I'm curious. I mean, I don't want to take up the whole time talking about the book. You have to get the book. It's called The Accident. It is my story of being a young girl and dealing with things like not changing clothes in front of other people, and not being able to wear a bikini because the scars are not supposed to be in sunshine. But more than that, in 1965, bikinis were all the rage. You could barely find a one-piece swimsuit. So imagine that. You have to trudge along with your mom trying to find a one-piece suit that nobody else is wearing. And then not only are you gawky because you're a teenager, you're gawky because your bathing suit is gawky, right? So there are stories intermingled in the book about those kinds of experiences. I had many phobias growing up, some rational, some not rational. And the book talks about some of those phobias. And what really spoke to me, one male actually read the book and then emailed me and told me a lot of people have, quote, self-help books, right? Here's what happened to me. Here's how I got through it, blah, blah, blah. He said, but your book is different because it gives specifics on how to overcome things like that.
Testimonial.
It was. It really
So,
struck home with me because this book is not about me. The book is about the story and how hopefully overcoming so many odds that I did will help someone else overcome their struggles. It's so important to share. We heal through sharing. It's so important to let others help us. People mostly want to help, right? And if you don't ask
right.
for the help, you're not
Yes.
going to get the help. But as soon as you ask,
True.
people want to help. They want to support. I'll be working with the Arizona Burn Foundation as a SOAR representative to support people in such situations like what I experienced. So I'm looking for those opportunities where I can literally share my story, hopefully inspiring, encouraging, and helping, supporting others.
All right, so I have a couple questions. So now that the door is opened, you're ready to share. So the question, and I'm sure that other people have this question too, is so what was the reason for actually being quiet all these years, and actually, and I guess maybe that part of that answer is what was going on in the family dynamics, but that is so interesting. What prompted you to actually share it from your heart, but why not before?
So, we all struggle with different things, and I was different. I felt awkward. I felt different. My body is scarred. It doesn't look like a normal body. I talk in the book about at times as a teenager, I'd get up in the morning and cover my mirror so I didn't have to look at myself. So you don't share those things. We're very lucky in the 2020 age where there's a lot of behavioral health support. There wasn't that in the 50s, 60s, even 70s. You weren't encouraged to share things. We didn't realize that sharing was healing at that time. Let alone if you did go see a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, it was expensive. There was no health insurance. My hospital bill was tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. My dad paid it off $15 a week in cash for years.
Wow.
So things were very different. But more to your point, why did I never share? Because I felt different. I was different. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. So how could I share something? I saw myself. Let me phrase that differently. I believed others would see me as I saw myself, which was not whole, not normal, different, ugly, scared, scarred, and I could just go on. But so I never shared.
But so interesting. And yet what what I find is so dynamic about this is that you understood the image. And so you were teaching people about the image and your smile, and you're just so lovely. You're just such a great package and the first impressions which is everything that we see first, but not what was on the I don't know what is the inside or what you couldn't see. So and I guess that would make sense that that would kind of heal you a little bit too, that you're helping others without even letting people know your why. Was that part of your? Was that your passion to go into image
Not
consulting?
really. It's so interesting that it took that leap. Um, First of all, to your first part, lack of self confidence, right? And so as I decided to overcome my phobias, and that helped build my self confidence. And so first impressions is all about self confidence, right? Because you can't be successful with a first impression if you don't have that self confidence. And so my motivation behind creating first impressions when I retired from healthcare was that I had seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I had seen bad resumes. I'd seen people not do well because of lack of self confidence in interviews. I'd seen people not know how to dress or the proper etiquette for interviews, whether it was doctors that I would interview, and we would take them out to really nice dinners, and they either would not treat the hostess or the waiter, waitress professionally, or they didn't
Mm.
know which was the right wine glass to use or water glass or how to pass the bread. So that really was the motivation behind creating First Impressions. I just felt
Yeah.
like I was very fortunate to have some
Wow.
really wonderful mentors as I was growing up in the work world. And so I felt it was my turn to give back to others. I mean, that sounds really selfish, but I don't know. It's my turn to give back. And the book is part of that giving back.
I love that. Selfless, not selfish. You're very selfless. So, Gail, so did you say was it talked about in your home, or once you healed? So there was so was
I
that again the
guess we
sign of the
just never
times?
spoke about it. I can't tell you why. I asked my mom if there was some underlying feeling of guilt or whatnot. And she said, no, your dad wasn't there. I didn't have any guilt because it wasn't anything I did. I didn't contribute, which I don't hold her any feelings of guilt either. I mean, it was purely an accident. And we know accidents happen, right? We get burned, scalded from water. We trip downstairs. I mean, accidents just happen. So it wasn't that. I just think it was life took over. My dad worked 2 and 3 jobs many times to put food on the table. My mom worked out of the house probably from the time my sister and I were 8 or 9 years old. It just, and again, probably in part because my scars were not that apparent to anyone other than to me. It wasn't something on the forefront of anybody's mind. What do we talk about? I said a few
Mm.
minutes ago, I grew up in a very supportive family. My parents, particularly my dad, would always tell me how beautiful I was. And I never believed him. Never believed him. Because
Oh,
I saw,
oh.
he never saw me undressed. Not since I was an infant, probably, right? So he didn't know. And that's not something you talk to your dad about, right? Um, I didn't really even talk to my mom about it. It was just
Right.
hidden feelings, hidden emotions, things you just didn't talk about.
Sharing with them what you're going through and what teasing or just being the self-conscious, and so they're literally thinking everything is all right, and so that does kind of make, when you think about it that way, so you're going through these days and changing in the bathroom, which is traumatic enough for any young girl, but then to have to, wow, wow, your mom and dad stayed
My
together
mom and
after
dad,
the
my dad
accident too.
passed about 11 years ago, and they celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary before he died. So yeah, my mom and dad, it's such a love story. They met at the Jewish Community Center when my mom was 16 and my dad was about 20. Not quite, 5 years difference. So, yeah, about 20. Maybe mom was 14, actually, and dad was 19. So they waited until my mom turned 18 and they got married. And so they're 5 years apart and they went through heaven and hell together. I mean, they supported one another literally and figuratively through 60 years. They were amazing until the day my dad died. My mom
Wow,
and
that
dad would be
is.
seen dancing in the kitchen, walking, holding hands. I mean, they were each other's world. And fortunately for me, I now have that. Al and I have been married. We
Mine
had our
too.
40th wedding anniversary last May. And we're just very blessed and very
Oh,
grateful for the way my life turned out.
that is so sweet. That is so sweet. My parents too, 70, almost 70-year marriage, just shy of 2 months. And my dad he couldn't understand when my mom passed. It was just the hardest time. But their love was really strong and they never spent time apart. And they couldn't understand any, like, why, like, if I went on a girls' trip, they were like, what? So, and my husband is Alan too. And we've been together 27 years. So very, very nice. Yeah. It's nice when you have your parents to actually watch them have such a beautiful relationship. That is a gift that parents give. And I know my daughter, we parent very well together, Alan and I, and like she sometimes, it's hard because there's so many kids that are going through divorced families, and sometimes her friends will say, well, you don't know what it's like, Alana, your parents are friends, your parents get along, and you have no clue what it's like. But Alana's got other things that are causing her anxiety. And then and that's another thing, just teens alone, it's really not discussed enough, the anxiety that they have no matter what. Forget the COVID, which is really adding to it, but to have this, you could have called the book The Secret too, because it's really, you had the accident and then you had kind of the secret about it. You're keeping it in. So I definitely am going to purchase the book. Let's see the book again. Let's see your
And I'll
baby.
have you know, the coat that I'm
Tell me about the
wearing
cover.
on the cover, my mom made.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh. So this is a picture of you. That's a picture of you, and I love, and it kind of is it watermarked or just it's just so pretty. It has like a
Yes.
little bit of a
Yep.
watermark
The
feeling
cover
to it.
designer was amazing. He took a black and white photo that my mom had of me in front of our house in the snow, and he did what he did. He's amazing. So the other thing I'll share is the accident will be coming out in Spanish in the next 2 weeks. El accidente. I was encouraged
Nice.
to have it translated
Wow.
um, because our population is very heavy in the Hispanic culture, right? And they tend to be a very secretive culture, very private culture. And my book has been read by teachers, school psychologists, school counselors, a child psychologist, and they all encouraged me to have it translated into Spanish.
That makes sense. And I could see your book being at the different burn centers as an important, to, am I correct that the Shriners, right, are the hospital that also, to make sure if you're not in touch with them, get in touch with them so that they could send
Wouldn't
home
that be
every
awesome?
child with the book.
Yes.
I could actually see you, and I actually could see you creating almost a more youthful version for the 2.5 to 5 year old age. And then I actually see this as a lifetime movie because I'm sure there's other things, but anytime that you could actually teach, and because there are in life so many people that have gone through burn, it's just, and it's and I mean, so there was concern that you were not going to make it because those burns were on your
40,
torso
they
area, and they
covered
were
40% of
really,
my body. They were better than third-degree burns on
so.
40% of my body. So
Oh my god.
they're.
So the concern is organs? Is this concern organ
No,
failure? What is the
it's the burning through of the layers of skin right down to the bone.
But what is the concern for passing away? What was So you must have been in incredible brutal pain. But what was the concern about your not being able to make it?
Well, the burns were so severe. There's shock. There's the
Okay.
severity of the burns and whether they'll heal, and the
Okay.
exposure. I mean, it's like getting a compound fracture, right? So if you have a compound fracture, your bone goes through the skin, and it's all open to infection.
Okay.
So it's really infection.
Oh, okay. Wow, that must have been so scary. And do you recall, I mean, 2.5 is young. Do you recall the pain, or what did your parents tell you? Did they put you in a coma? How did they help you
Yeah.
with the
So
pain?
things are done much differently now for burn victims than they were back in 1956. And so I was treated with steroids. I was treated with radiation therapy, salve
Wow.
of some sort, to protect from the infections. My parents did not share much beyond that with me because, you don't want people to recollect pain and fear and all of that. But there are things that I do remember that actually surprised my mom when we spoke about it.
Wow.
No,
Is that in the book? Oh, very
yeah,
interesting.
I
Wow.
haven't. Those
Wow.
are some of
So
the things
there's
that
really,
they're very graphic. Like my memory is very graphic in some of those cases. And so, unless I
wow.
really know who's in the audience, uh, that's not something that I would just share. There are a lot of
Got it.
stories
Thank you.
in
Okay.
the book,
That's
but there
interesting.
are a lot of stories that were not shared in the book. The book, as you said a few minutes ago, for real like toddlers, my book was originally going to be like a 12-page book, mostly photos and illustrations, for young people who would be read to. And as it developed, this is what it became. It's 50 some odd pages. It's about 58 pages. There are some illustrations. I had an amazing illustrator here in Tucson, Mary Beth Benson. And my editor is encouraging me to do like the next level, the grown up story, if you will. I don't know if I'll
Oh,
do that. I don't know if I'll do that.
oh, oh,
Um,
oh. Well, you know what? Right now you've got your book. So right now you've got enough on your plate to really get the book out and share your story, and then also helping. So you've got a nice part of all of that. Well, I really appreciate your coming on and telling me. I'm so glad you were able to share your story because it is so important. I will, it's interesting because I am always worried about accidents, and I'm learning now that my daughter, what if you said to her, what do you not like about your mother? She would tell you, I am ridiculously a helicopter mom. Like I like they can't go by the stairs because I would see them falling down the stairs and I would stop. And so I would envision what would happen and then I would stop them from doing it. And so my kids, like my three boys, I think Sammy's the only one that maybe broke something. But when we go back, and that doesn't make me the greatest mom. It actually is not even a good thing because I'm such a helicopter that I'm driving my daughter crazy, and I recognize that, and just that, well, I want to keep you safe is not enough. But I don't, that's the most stressful part about having a child is just trying to get everything and making sure. So I could totally feel for your mom, and I love that she didn't that she was actually, especially during those times, to not fall victim to being guilty and to understanding that it is an accident. So if there's anything really that I'm taking from all of this, is that is a lesson too, that we have to let accidents, not that we have to let accidents happen, but they do happen. And don't, it's not so great to be the way I am as a mother because I am way too, and all it does is add stress. And I'm like, same with my mother too. And you know what's, Gail? So it's bike week at Daytona Beach. And you know what I love? I love a woman with tattoos on a motorcycle. And you know why? Because I'm not a woman with tattoos on a motorcycle. My mom scared the crap out of it with me. Never could ride a motorcycle. Could never get a tattoo. Really couldn't do much. Couldn't like like when I think back, my parents also put, well, not my dad. I don't even know if my dad did or didn't, but my mom really kind of, and I'm a goody two shoes. So of course I listened to everything. If mom said, don't do this, maybe I rode on my motorcycle. I remember one time on a motorcycle getting home and getting in such trouble that I just wouldn't do it again. So I kudos to everyone that is, you know, you just can't be like I am. So I love that you said that it's an accident. It happens. We learn from them, and then sometimes people go through these accidents, and maybe the reason is that you're going to be helping a ton of other. Well, you're going to be helping everyone. You're going to be helping anyone that has burned. You're going to be helping families to understand it, siblings to help each other, friends to understand why we don't tease each other and bully. So you're really changing the world. It's amazing.
That's
I'm so
broad.
proud of you.
Thank you.
It is. It is broad. We're both broads, actually. No, it is broad. I love that you're doing that. So thank you. Thank you. I really look forward to getting the book. So your book is on, so I noticed, so is your book on Amazon or is it on another platform?
So it's on several platforms. You can get it directly from the publisher, which is Book Locker. You can get
Okay.
it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Walmart. You can download the book from the publisher right now. Ebooks for the Kindle and for the Nook will be available around April 1. I'm not sure why, but it takes them a long time to load the book, so you can get it ebook, but that's not the publisher's issue, if you will. I've also been asked to make it into an audiobook, so I'm researching that. And again, it will be available in Spanish as well, probably the beginning of April. And yeah, my whole thing is I hope people will read it, share it, and tell me how my story inspired theirs.
Have you got in touch with your local Barnes and Noble?
Not yet. There, with COVID, it makes it so difficult.
Oh,
My husband had book signings at the house, 50 people every time a book was launched. And we want to do that, but I don't know about you. I'm not ready to have 20 people in my home, let alone 30, 40, 50. So we're trying to figure out how to make that happen here because everyone is asking me to sign their book. And it's reason for celebration, if nothing more. It's not really about signing the book.
It really is. Well, what I was asking was, well, I love book signs, but the reason I was asking, Barnes and Noble is really fantastic about bringing in authors, and they'll get the books, they'll buy the books, so they can sell them. But it may be smart now to get on their calendar for September or October, whereas waiting. So it may be smart to just see if what their calendar's open.
That actually. Thank
because
you for
we may
the
be
suggestion. I appreciate it, and
ready.
I appreciate the Shriner suggestion. So if anybody has some contacts into Shriners, I would be really, really grateful for that.
There we go. That's really right. Maybe go right to the corporate Shriners to let them know. I would definitely do that. So very good. So Gayle, it's lovely to see you. I will be, and Rudy's coming to visit me in August, but we will get over to Tucson too to say hello to him. I really miss the Tucson. I always said go for the mountains and stay for the people, because it really is everyone I've met, and I absolutely enjoyed every second with you. So I thank you. Let's get the book sold out there and shared, and I will talk to you soon. Gayle is on Clubhouse. We were talking about the new app Clubhouse, and she's going to be interviewed on Clubhouse for one of the rooms. So I look forward to sharing that information. And Gayle has a Facebook page, which was on my original post, and we'll share that too for the book, The Accident. So you want to go on the Facebook page. And Gayle, if you ever want to talk about other ways to monetize your book, let me know. I'm happy to share some ideas, and we'll go from there. So thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Adrienne. You too. We look forward to having you back in Tucson.
I can't wait. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Gayle.